Hi guys, I'm Libertman, forced to be alone but free to decide how. Welcome to the second live stream of the day. Today we started the second weekend of live streams in which I'm practicing, hopefully successfully. I think I got the trick now on how to launch every live stream okay without any technical issues, and so it's a new way of recording the videos that I had planned to record anyway. So by getting the recording of this live stream, I'm getting these videos done about the reviewing scientific papers related to different topics related to the manosphere and men's mental health improvement, right? So now in this live stream, I'm going to talk about something that many men recognize only after it's too late. Why men can endure pressure for years. Why men appear functional, responsible, even strong, and then suddenly collapse, emotionally, psychologically, or even physically. So this live stream is not about weakness, it's about how male coping patterns can hide distress, even from the men themselves. So I'm going to base the entire live stream in one longitudinal study published in Frontiers in Psychiatry that examined how men cope with stress before and during a major global stressor. This study is called Hidden in Plain Sight: Men's Coping Pattern and Psychological Distress Before and During the C-19 Pandemic. And the authors are Livingstone, Youssef, Francis, Greenwood, Olson, and McDonald. So as usual, I will read some excerpt from the paper and then I will break it down in simple words what it means. Okay, I start reading. Men reporting higher use of avoidant coping strategies are reported significantly higher levels of psychological distress, including stress, anxiety, and depressive symptoms. This already breaks a common myth that avoidant coping doesn't mean doing nothing. It means not engaging emotionally with distress. Avoidant coping includes distraction, suppression, emotional numbing, denial, staying busy to avoid feeling. Many men are excellent at this. They don't collapse early. What they do is to postpone awareness. And postpone awareness is what allows stress to accumulate silently. I go on reading. Men often reported high levels of active coping and problem-focused strategies alongside elevated psychological distress. So this is the key paradox of the live stream, because men can be planning, solving, working, adapting, performing, while still being highly distressed internally. From the outside, it looks like resilience, the so-called terminology that is used in the last 15 years. But from the inside, it feels like I just have to push through. Active coping masks distress. It does not resolve it. This is why men often don't seek help. They are doing something. It's just that isn't emotional processing. So why others don't see the warning signs? Let me read another excerpt. Psychological distress in men was frequently not accompanied by overt help-seeking behaviors. This explains why collapse often appears sudden. Friends, partners, co-workers say, "He never said anything, he seemed fine, we had no idea." But the study shows that distress was there. It just wasn't expressed. Men often communicate stress through irritability, withdrawal, overwork, silence, and physical exhaustion. Why society rarely reads as a call for support? Because it's actually trained to do so, and right, so it hardly interpret these signs and features in male behavior as a call for support. It is implicit that for men they will cope somehow. So men often operate under a threshold model of stress. That threshold starts with an endure phase or stage, then suppress, then adapt and minimize. When the situation goes above that threshold, that leads to burnout, to emotional collapse, to anger outbursts, to depressive episodes, and sudden disengagement. The problem is not lack of strength. The problem is delayed feedback. The study shows that distress can remain high for long periods without external expression until the system overloads. And why sometimes men themselves don't notice that build-up? Well, I go on reading. Avoidant coping was associated with reduced emotional awareness and lower likelihood of acknowledging distress. This is crucial. Men don't always choose to hide their struggle. Avoidant coping actually reduces emotional awareness. In simple words, you cannot report what you are not fully registering. So men often say, "I didn't realize how bad it was. It hit me all at once. I thought I was handling it." The collapse feels sudden, but it was prepared slowly. So why this is not a personal failure? This study doesn't frame men as defective. It shows a systemic coping pattern, that it is rewarded by culture, reinforced by masculinity norms, effective in the short term, and dangerous in the long term. endurance becomes identity until that same endurance breaks. Resilience is often misunderstood because resilience is not infinite endurance, emotional silence, or self-erasure. True resilience requires feedback, regulation, recovery. The study shows men often skip the recovery phase. They move from stress to action to more action and then finally collapse. Instead of going from stress to awareness of being stressed, then making some adjustments and finally recover from that. So if you have been enjoying this first part of the live stream, please give a like to the live stream or the replay if you're watching the replay video. Leave a comment or your question in the chat, and please subscribe to the channel to support this content. So now I will address how this pattern plays out across the 4C4PC macro groups, and why some men bend while others break. Let's see how each group can redesign resilience before experiencing a collapse through some practical ways to lower the stress threshold, but without losing dignity as a man. So, why men appear to be fine, just fine, until they are not? I will read another line. High levels of psychological distress were observed even among men reporting high functioning and active engagement in daily roles. So this sentence explains the illusion of male resilience. Men often remain employed, productive, socially present, and responsible. So distress is discounted. The study shows that functionality is not the same as regulation. A man can be functioning while his internal stress load keeps rising and still unnoticed by others, and often unnoticed by himself. So let's now see how the cost of delayed stress, acknowledging the stress, how costly could be for mental health. I keep on reading. Avoidant coping strategies were associated with worsening distress over time rather than resolution. So avoidant coping buys time but not relief. It postpones emotional processing, the recalibration, and rest. So stress compounds over time. This is why collapse often look disproportionate. The reaction is not to today's problem. It's to years of unprocessed load. Well, but why men don't adjust early? Well, men often don't downshift because they were rewarded for endurance. Stopping feels like failure for men. Rest threatens identity, and asking for help risks their status. So the stress threshold rises, but the system becomes non-understanding with and not noticing when a man is struggling, even less when he's struggling inside. So now let's see how this pattern differs across the 4C4PC macro groups. The same coping pattern produces produces very different collapse styles depending on personality structure. In the case of the internal rationals, the stress pattern consists of cognitive over-control, emotional detachment, and suppression through analysis. And how collapse looks? Well, it looks like in the shape of sudden apathy, shutdown, loss of motivation, existential exhaustion. Well, why does it happen? Because stress is absorbed intellectually until emotional system disengage for the internal rationals. So a healthy redesign for them would be to get into a scheduled decompression, having some time of low stimulus solitude with awareness of what is going on in their life, through cognitive checks in tied to physical signals. In the case of the internal emotionals, the stress pattern consists of emotional self-containment, over-responsibility, and silent endurance. How collapse looks? Well, collapse looks like depressive episodes, emotional overwhelm, withdrawal from meaning. Stress is felt deeply, but it's never shared. So, a healthy redesign of this pattern would imply early emotional articulation, one trusted emotional outlet, someone to be safe, to share their emotional state with, permission to rest before exhaustion. For the external rationals, the stress pattern would look like overperformance, control through action, and productivity as regulation. And collapse in the case of external rational looks like burnout, irritability, sudden disengagement, and health breakdowns. Stress is managed through dominance and action, but until the capacity is exceeded. So a healthy redesign of this pattern would imply redefining success thresholds, strategic rest without status loss, and delegation before overload. And for the case of the external emotionals, the stress pattern would look like emotional overextension, people-pleasing behaviors, avoidance of internal limits, and collapse would look like emotional volatility, relationship ruptures, and sudden withdrawal. In their case, stress accumulates through overconnection without boundaries. And a healthy redesign of this pattern would imply boundary training, rhythm regulation, and getting into fewer but deeper commitments. So to summarize this topic, let's understand why some men bend while others break. The study does not show that some men are weak. It shows that feedback timing matters, and that coping style matters, and that personality structure matters. So the men who bend, what they do is that they adjust early. They lower. They have a lower load incrementally, and they reinterpret endurance. And while men who break out of these situations, they delay the adjustment They rely on masking the situation until it's too late, and they wait for collapse to force change until the last moment. So the goal is not to raise the threshold endlessly. The goal is to sense stress earlier and to adjust sooner. And therefore, you are going to be able to recover faster. Resilience is not how much you can carry. Resilience is how early you listen to what you're going through and respond accordingly in time. So men don't collapse because they are fragile. They collapse because they were strong for too long without recalibration. This video was not about removing strength. It was about making strength sustainable. So I hope this whole content has been helpful to you or to any person you may know. That's why I encourage you to share this content, and please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Leave your comment in the comment section or questions. I will try to address them all in time. So much courage, take care, and see you in the next one.